Hey, it's Jennifer with Business Growth Strategies International. And on today's Tuesday's Thought or Two, I want to take a break from the normal conversation that I normally have with you. And I want to focus on current events. Yet again, our nation is gripped by violence that was perpetrated by somebody that walked into a school. An 18-year-old adult walked into a school with a gun and shot children and teachers in the school. This is about 2 weeks after an 18, 19-year-old kid walked into a store in Buffalo and shot up a supermarket. This is after a couple weeks prior before that, a guy walks onto the subway in Brooklyn, New York, and shoots people in the subway. The two cases of the 18-year-old kids is the thing that's really the most troubling. Gun violence, we need to do something with the gun violence. There's absolutely no question in my mind. We must do something on the gun violence. There is no reason why an 18-year-old can get a gun. We have increased the age to legally buy cigarettes. We have increased the age to legally get alcohol. We have increased the age for so many different things. Why is a gun at 18 still allowed to be a routine transaction? Why is it that parents who have guns in a home and are not taking care of those guns, and the kid accesses those guns, why isn't it on the federal books that that becomes an issue? Why isn't it that people that are mentally unstable, that have been to a facility because they were involuntarily committed, why aren't they red flagged? Why isn't the system better in terms of catching up? There's many laws on the books right now, and I will cede that point. We need to better enforce the laws on the books. But we also need some common sense laws too. If we're going to allow 18-year-olds to go into a store and buy guns, we have a bigger problem. You can't buy alcohol. You can't vote. Well, you can vote, but you can't buy alcohol. You can't buy cigarettes, and you really can't rent a car at the age of 18, but you can buy a gun. There's absolutely no need. We need to have common sense legislation. It's the only way we're going to do something. We also have to have a really clear idea where we're going in terms of what we're going to do next. If we keep on saying there's another mass shooting in this country, and we just let it slide off us, like there's absolutely nothing that changed, that's exactly where we are. The news no longer becomes shocking. If we keep going down that path, how much worse is it going to be when your children and grandchildren are dealing with it at that point? Are you going to be comfortable with the way that the situation is at that time? What do we do if we are going to be seeing so many of these shootings? Over the last couple of years, according to a statistic that NBC News was reporting, between 2017 and 2021, there was a 117% increase in mass shootings in the United States, a 55% increase over 2020. That is an absolute terrible statistic. We need to be looking at what is it that's going to really make sense? What is it that's going to say, we are going to be there and we're going to say no more to gun violence? If you listen to the news in the New York area alone, it seems every day there's another shooting. Across the nation, we've seen many major cities dealing with the same gun violence. And today in Uvalde, Texas, right outside of San Antonio, Unfortunately, 14 children and one teacher lost their lives. 14 children and one teacher. What did these kids do? Second, third, and fourth graders. What did these kids do to make an 18-year-old come into a school and shoot these kids? These kids had their whole lives in front of them. We say when an adult dies too young, they had their whole life in front of them. But 7, 8, and 9-year-olds, 14 children are not coming home today. 14 children. How is it that an 18-year-old again can have a gun and walk into a school and shoot a school? How is it that an 18-year-old can buy a gun and walk into a supermarket with that gun and start shooting people? How is it that these networks that are out there that are purely for hate are allowed to exist even with the free speech laws? Why aren't we countering that? Why aren't we being more out there showing people that at the end of the day, we're all people? We are humans. As I think it was Shakespeare that said, do I not bleed red? Or is my blood not red? At the end of the day, they are people. It doesn't matter what color skin anybody has. We celebrate diversity, inclusion, and acceptance so many times. Many people, though, for whatever reason, don't. Nobody's going to make them change. But what we have to do is we have to still look at mental health. We have to look at where people are in terms of what is making everybody so divisive. That a kid can pick up a gun and walk into a school and shoot kids in a school is wrong. We've unfortunately in this country in the last 15 years had too many school shootings. We keep saying never again, never again. But the rules don't change. We hear from our leaders, we're not going to let it happen again. Why aren't we at least enforcing the rules on the books? There's nothing more that the National Rifle Association would need to be doing to fight the rules on the books. If there are rules on the books, let's enforce them. Let's also say that a kid at 18-year-old cannot get a gun, can no longer legally own a gun, cannot walk in as a routine transaction, as the gentleman who sold the gun to the Buffalo shooter was reported to have said. If we allow routine transactions for 18-year-old kids to have guns, why is alcohol and smoking an older age? Why is it that they can't rent a car at 18 years old? If they're adults, then they're adults. But we know that they're kids. We need to make sure that this is not going to happen again. And it's not enough for the platitudes. It's not enough to simply say, we can do whatever we can do. Enforce the rules on the books, figure out how to get common sense legislation through. Stop the passing the buck. We need to do this for our kids and for everybody's safety. Otherwise, what is it going to be next time when unfortunately there will be another shooting? We really need to be thinking, how is this going to be making a difference? And it starts with you, and it starts with our leaders to really get out there and start making a difference.